You're listening to the one news show that keeps you informed on the world around you. This is 41.1 The Info Loop.
How's it going, guys? This is Mikkel Nelson, and you're listening to 41.1 The Info Loop. I got a rather strange story coming from Yahoo Beauty this time around, so let's check it out. New research has found a link between drinking alcohol and developing melanoma, the deadliest form of skin cancer. The study, which was published in the journal Cancer Epidemiology, Biomarkers and Prevention, found the biggest association between drinking white wine and the development of invasive melanoma in white men and women. Surprisingly, the increased risk was greater for parts of the body that receive less sun exposure. According to the American Cancer Society, there will be more than 76,000 new melanoma cases diagnosed in the U.S. in 2016, and more than 10,000 people are expected to die of the disease this year. Unfortunately, the rates of melanoma have been rising in the U.S., and the risk of melanoma is more than 20 times higher for people with light skin. The American Cancer Society reports having blonde hair or skin that freckles or burns is easily also raises a person's risk, but genetics can also be a factor. For the study, researchers from Brown University analyzed data from 3 large prospective cohort studies in which 210,252 participants were followed for about 18 years. Scientists analyzed food frequency questionnaires to figure out how much alcohol they consume and how often. Researchers discovered that any alcohol intake was linked with a 14% higher risk of melanoma per drink per day, and each glass of white wine a day was associated with an additional 13% increased risk of melanoma. However, other forms of alcohol like beer, red wine, or liquor did not have any significant impact on a person's melanoma risk. The link between alcohol and melanoma was greatest for the parts of the body that usually get less sun exposure. People who had 20 or more grams of alcohol a day were 2% more likely to have melanoma on their head, neck, arms, or legs, but were 73% more likely to have them on their back or stomach. What's going on here? Gary Goldenberg, MD, Medical Director of Dermatology, faculty practice at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, tells Yahoo Beauty that he's not shocked by the findings. Other studies have shown that patients who consume alcohol beverages, especially more than the recommended amount, have been associated with increased risk of skin cancer, he says. However, Goldberg says it may not actually be due to the alcohol itself. Instead, it may be the fact that those who tend to drink more than the recommended amount are also more likely to make other poor health decisions such as smoking, eating a poor diet, or having too much sun exposure, which is linked to the development of melanoma. As for increased risk of developing melanoma on the trunk, Goldenberg says that melanoma is mostly related to sunburn, but those areas of least sunburn exposure may have been burned in the past, having a sunburn before the age of 18, and genetics are a big factor in melanoma, he notes. Goldenberg points out that this is an association study, meaning scientists found that people who drink more are also more likely to develop melanomas, not that drinking more causes melanomas. One has to be very careful to draw conclusions, he says. Goldenberg says, you don't need to swear off regular glass of white wine on these findings. You just need to be smart about it and your other lifestyle choices. This story I find rather peculiar because if the effects of drinking white wine affect the skin to such a degree where it has an increased chance of melanoma, then should it not only affect people with lighter skin color? I mean, I get that people who have lighter skin color have less melanin in their skin, so they are more likely to get sunburned than other people, but should it also affect people with darker skin color as well? I mean, the thing that comes to my mind when I read this and hear about this study is the question that pops up into my mind is, what does the white wine exactly do to the skin? That's the biggest question. Of course, I would have to ask Dr. Goldenberg about it. Maybe I can get him on an interview next time around, and he can probably give us the details. But there are very fine details that I probably need to read within this study, and maybe I can find one of the doctors, including Dr. Goldenberg, to give us the more details as to this exact link that's going on here, because maybe it's not exactly the link as the article says. Maybe it's because of poor lifestyle choices, not eating healthy, not exercising, and all sorts of other factors. So it may not exactly be just one thing. So, but as always, don't believe the hype, right? That's all the time I have for this time around. Join me next time for when I have another interesting news story for you. As always, free your mind. This is Mikkel Nelson, and you've been listening to 41.1 The Info Loop.